So welcome everyone to the Velocity Webs webinar series. So today we have Chloe Romero from Lemon Light out in Southern California. And she'll be talking about how charities are creating engaging fundraising events online. So I'll start with a couple of housekeeping items. Whoops. Sorry about that. It's Gardener Day at the Chief headquarters, so the dogs are very upset about gardeners being out there. So a couple of housekeeping items. We want to welcome everyone and thank our sponsors, Extraordinary Charities and Great Charity Challenge, and also thank some of the other presenters you've seen so far, like the Dream Team, Chloe from Lemon Light here, and QGive, who'll be with us later in the week. Some housekeeping items. We're going to record the webinar today. We'll have the slides available probably at the end of the series next week. So you'll get an email from us when those slides are ready. We'll also distribute the Chloe's slide deck later, either today or tomorrow in an email. And if you have questions throughout the webinar, please go ahead and enter those in the chat box. And we'll address those at the end. There should be plenty of time for Q&A. And we do have some other free resources available for you on our website at achievecauses.com/resources. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and turn it over to Chloe.
Great. Thank you, Clay. Hi, everyone again. Welcome. I'm so excited to be here. Let me just go ahead and share my screen. Okay, Clay, can you see it? Is it looking good?
Yes, it looks great.
Awesome. So today we are going to share how charities are creating engaging fundraising events online and how your organization can do the same. I know this time of year is already stressful enough as it is for nonprofits with end of year fundraising. And now on top of that, you guys have to learn how to pivot and host a virtual event online, all while making it engaging and hitting those fundraising goals. So don't worry if you're here, welcome. We are going to offer some great inspirational hosting ideas and make sure that you guys have a really, really successful online event. If you don't know us here at Lemon Light, we are a video production company. We specialize in video content for brands and agencies across the world. We've created video for social media, for your website, for paid advertising, commercials, everything, you name it. And since we were founded in 2014, we've worked with plenty of nonprofits, helping them create video content that converts and meets their goals. And if you don't know me, my name is Chloe. I am a content strategist at Lemon Light. And besides building awareness and engagement for a brand, I've also been in charge of hosting our monthly virtual events and webinars here at Lemon Light for the past 2 years. So just so you guys have an idea of what we're going to cover today, we're going to start with some benefits and challenges of hosting a virtual event. And then the bulk of the content is mainly going to be great online fundraising event ideas that are really engaging and can drive plenty of donations for your charity. And then we'll talk about how to actually promote your event using email marketing and social media. And then I'll just briefly cover some top virtual event platforms that you guys can use, and also wrap things up with some 5 tips for hosting success. That's going to probably be about 30 to 40 minutes, I would say, and then we'll wrap things up, like Clay said at the end, with some Q&A. So let's get started with the benefits and challenges of virtual events. Now, virtual events have really been growing in popularity even prior to the pandemic because they have such a high return on investment. Probably the biggest benefit, I would say, of hosting an event online is it is really cheap. Far less expensive compared to hosting something in person. And nonprofits have actually, nonprofits who've already hosted online fundraising events reported spending 75% less compared to in-person events that they hosted last year in 2019, which is great. And this makes sense because you don't have to pay for any food, you probably have a smaller staff, You don't, if you're hosting a gala, you don't have to book a venue, things like that. Basically, with virtual events, the only thing you have to worry about paying is the cost of a virtual meeting platform, which we'll talk about. You also, with virtual events, have the ability to reach way more people. This no longer limits you to inviting attendees with just a certain region or city, because you can reach people across, outside the country in different time zones. And this can get you really in front of a whole new audience who maybe wouldn't have been aware of your charity beforehand if it was in person. And because you're able to reach more people, you can also expect to see an increase of new donors who are really interested in what you do. And nonprofits who've already hosted fundraising events online have also reported that they've seen higher donation amounts from donors themselves, and some even reported raising more funds than last year. So it looks like people are really in the mood for giving right now, and they're enjoying saving time, participating in events at their home, in the comfort of their own home, at their own time. Now, of course, there are going to be some challenges, a few challenges. Probably the first challenge that came to mind when your organization decided to host an online event were all the possible technical difficulties that could occur. This fear that you wouldn't be able to have the technology working exactly as you wanted. But don't worry, we have a few tips for you in this presentation for preparing for those technical challenges. Also, right now, the audiences everywhere have a case of what we call virtual fatigue. Sometimes people are referring to this as Zoom gloom or Zoom fatigue, and that's because everyone is hosting events online right now. And in addition to watching online events, a lot of people are also working from home. They're on their computer all day long, taking video calls, as you guys probably do yourselves. And so it's really, really crucial that your event is engaging, right? And so that's why we're going to talk about what we're going to talk about today. Another challenge is the fact that it's just difficult to pivot from in-person to online. If your organization has been around for a while and you have had the same fundraising event year after year, it's going to feel a little challenging to transition that same event online. So I would suggest to just really keep an open mind and not feel like you have to stick to fundraising the way that you always have. And in the end, you may discover like a new effective way to virtually fundraise that you may want to keep in the future. So let's talk about some online fundraising event ideas, starting with probably the easiest virtual fundraiser, a game night. Who doesn't love a game night? This is very simple because all you have to do is you select a night where families can either play together at home. You can also suggest friends get together over Zoom and play some games. You can select a game for everyone to play, but maybe you just want to make things simple for everyone and offer, any game to play. These things could be, these games can be Pictionary, trivia, bingo. There's also a lot of free online board games. If you guys want to look on Google. And a great example of game night is actually from Boston Children's Hospital. And they had their own game night with great success back in April. I know that they originally planned for an in-person game night, but had to quickly pivot once the pandemic hit. And they ended up exceeding their fundraising goal. And one way they did that was they invited participants to donate what they could in order to register. And this is proven to be very effective as they were able to exceed their goals. Another game night idea that might require some more organization but can be really effective is hosting a gaming tournament. And this can include video games like Call of Duty, Rock Band, Mario Kart. And I think this would be effective because this would surely be a hit amongst families with teenagers. And also there's a lot of adult men and women who love playing these games already and would honestly have no problem playing for charity. For this idea, it would require a little bit more organization on your end. You'd have to select a specific game, get participants registered, and make sure that you keep track of everyone's scores. You can also entice people to join and donate by offering a prize for the winner at the end. And you can also require participants to make a minimum donation if they want to enter the tournament. And if you really want to take this idea to the next level, then I would highly suggest that you live stream the final 2 participants competing for that #1 spot, and that would surely bring in a lot of viewers. But no matter what type of game night you want to have, I would always encourage you to ask your participants to send in photos of them having the game night with their family at home. And then that way you could use those photos to share it on social media and share how much of a success your game night was. So moving on to the next idea. So this one is probably my favorite, which is hosting a virtual gala. Now, if you had an in-person gala planned, don't cancel it just yet, because this is definitely one of those few fundraising events that can easily transition to being hosted online. And a few organizations that you guys see here, they actually hosted an ungala, which is the exact opposite of a gala. People simply bought tickets to stay home where they could attend the event from the comfort of their couch. And you'd be surprised how many people actually prefer that. You know, sometimes with these galas, it's a lot to ask of people to, you know, book an overnight stay at a hotel, you know, put in money to get all fixed up, get their hair done, you know, it's a lot of work. So people are actually preferring this type of virtual gala or ungala. And the company Twin Cities, they have a nonprofit called Tech Dump, and they hosted a Thanks for Not Coming gala, which is actually pretty funny. And so supporters bought tickets, they stayed at home, and I believe they had a video call with an MC where they learned more about the organization and the mission remotely. So feel free to use this idea. It seems pretty easy to execute and has really been effective for other nonprofits. If you did want to do this, a few things that I would suggest would be hiring a virtual MC. That way they can pump everyone up, keep the attendees engaged, and then also make sure that in the video call of this event that you share your charity's mission and that you're really transparent about where the donations are going. This is going to encourage more people to donate. And another really fun idea, which I love, is if your gala is, you know, reasonably sized and you have the resources to do so, you can ship each attendee a party in a box. And this can create, you know, a festive atmosphere, get people excited. The box that you send could include things like, you know, mini hats, tiny decorations. It could even include, you know, like snacks, chocolate, or maybe some chips, or even drink mixtures. But I think that's a really fun idea to get people engaged and excited. In order to raise money for this, we'd suggest mimicking what other organizations have done, which is charging for a ticket to enter the virtual gala. And then when you can also ask guests to donate additional money that they would have spent on travel, a new outfit, things that they would have spent if they attended the gala in person. All right, moving on. Another great idea is hosting a virtual performance. This is another engaging yet simple online idea. And I like it because you can live stream a musician or multiple artists. You can even form a little concert. You can hire a comedian or multiple and have a full-on comedy show. Or you can even have a keynote speaker. You know, maybe you saw someone have a really great TED Talk that was somehow related to your organization, and you can ask that person to come and speak live. An organization that did a really great virtual performance was Glastonbury. They usually host an in-person festival and they end up transforming it into a virtual concert. And they raised a ton of money, and they raised it for a few different organizations that you guys see here in their invite. Now, if you're going to host a virtual performance, I would suggest live streaming it on social media platforms like YouTube Live or Facebook Live. They are set up really well for this kind of thing, and they also tend to have higher viewership rates than, let's say, a Zoom call. And of course, the bigger and more well-known the performer, the wider your potential reach of donors will be. But I'd also like you guys to consider choosing a performer who's really passionate about your charity. And can you say a little something about it even during the live event? That would be great. In order to raise funds here, you should ask people to purchase a ticket to join the live stream event. And another great tip is if the performer is really well known, I'd even suggest organizing a behind the scenes meet and greet with the performer, all online, of course. And this way you can bring in additional donations to your cause. So the last idea that I have here is one of the most popular fundraising events, which is a run, a bike, or a walk. And this is great because participants get the chance to really challenge themselves, they get some exercise and raise money for a good cause. And with more people staying at home, we, I think, are all trying to find ways to get some activity in. And that's why hosting a virtual run, walk, or bike can be really engaging for people to participate in at this time. And not to mention, it's also way easier to host this virtually than it is in person. All that's required from you for this type of event is to give participants a range of time to participate. So you got to let them know, you have a week or maybe 1 month. And you also want to make sure that you set them up with a tracking software where they can track and report their mileage. And I have a few suggestions for some tracking software that you guys can use in later slides. And when the time comes, you can also live stream a kickoff ceremony, and this will get everyone really excited about participating. And then you can also end with a closing ceremony. And this, of course, will include you thanking everyone for participating. And you can also share the final amount raised and even give a shout out to the highest raiser. If you guys are interested in seeing an organization who has been executing multiple virtual runs across the country, I think they've been hosting them in every state, I would check out Pancreatic Cancer Action Network. See what they're doing on their website. I think they're doing a really great job at motivating people to participate. Now, I won't go over these other ideas that I have in too much detail, but I did want to mention them in case you guys wanted to use them on your own. The first one being a silent auction, which I think is really interesting. Also, a social media challenge. These have become extremely popular over the last couple of years. I'm sure you guys all know about the Ice Bucket Challenge. That challenge went viral. That was great. I would also suggest checking out how to do a virtual scavenger hunt. And this is cool because you can actually play this game live with all of your participants. Basically, you just name off the things, everyone scatters in their own homes, tries to find them, and then you can have everyone calculate their own score and maybe even bring the winner and have the winner share their screen on the live event and maybe like show off all the things that they found in their virtual scavenger hunt. Another great idea is a virtual talent show. And I think this would actually have more participation than you would think. There's a lot of, aspiring musicians or comedians out there that would love their time to shine on camera. So I would definitely consider hosting this one. And in order to raise funds, you could have people make a donation to actually participate. And then you could have a live, 1 to 2 hour talent show where donors can show off their talent and maybe compete for a prize. And you can even have like an MC on this live event too, and even judges, which are maybe like leaders in your organization. And then lastly, we have a virtual movie night. And this is basically where you just have everyone watch the same movie at the same time. They make a donation. But something, interesting and creative that you could do with this is you can have a closing event featuring Q&A from somebody that, either made the movie or actors in the movie. And you'd really be surprised who is willing to offer their time for charity, especially if it just means 30 minutes of their time from the comfort of their own home, chatting with people who loved the movie. I know that an example of this, it wasn't a nonprofit, but I do know that James Cameron, who's the director of Titanic, he did a Zoom call with a bunch of kids at LAUSD, the Los Angeles Unified School District, and because they were all learning about Titanic, I think for a history class. And so he gave us time for like 30 minutes to an hour and basically just answered all their questions totally free of charge, and it went really well. So you would be surprised, who's willing to come on and do these kind of things, especially when they don't have to travel anywhere and they could just do it from their own home. So let's get into how to actually promote your event, because it is really important that you have as many attendees at your event as possible to make sure that you get as much donations as possible. So you should definitely have an email marketing strategy in order to promote your event. If you guys see at the bottom here, I included just a sample of something that I've created on Excel for previous virtual events. And I would always suggest a 2-week email marketing strategy, which includes 4 emails. And this is going to get you guys the most attendees as possible. So I would say the first email, you send it out 2 weeks before, second email invite a week before. If you have a newsletter, I would highly suggest including it somewhere in your newsletter. You can send an invite 1 hour, 1 hour prior to the live event. And then of course you always want to send up a follow-up email with a link to the recording, thanking people for joining and donating. Some things to keep in mind with email marketing is you want to keep your email event design consistent everywhere. So if you're posting an image relating to your event on social media, you want to make sure that same design is portrayed in your email marketing. You also want to include an engaging subject line, highly engaging visuals, and also video. So these 3 things have all been shown to increase open rates with emails. And also click-through rates. So something that we've tested a lot of at Leverlight, being a video production company, is adding video to our emails. And it's crazy how many more people will actually sign up for something or click on the video when you include it compared to when you just include an image. So I'm not going to talk too much about video today, but if you guys have any questions about what kind of videos you can have to promote your event, I'm more than happy to answer them. Another thing to keep in mind for email is you want to make sure that you clearly explain how to register, all the steps that are included, what information they need to provide you, and then you also want to send them a separate email on instructions on how to join the event. Now remember, not everyone is technically savvy. So you need to be very specific about where people need to go, how they need to join, because not everyone's been on Zoom before or used these different platforms. So you want to be as specific as possible. It's also really important to add calls to action, also referred to as CTAs. And these are just button links. And you want to make sure that they link to either the event registration page, so people are taken to somewhere where they can sign up. And you always want to include a donate CTA somewhere, because sometimes people can't attend your event, but they're still very eager and willing to donate. So let's move on to social media promotion. Now, you may be used to posting for your organization on just Instagram or Facebook, but I would highly suggest that for promoting events, especially if you're having your first virtual event, that you promote on multiple platforms. So this also means Twitter, maybe even LinkedIn, things that you haven't tried before. And besides just having, like posting on Instagram, I would also suggest maybe testing out some Instagram stories. There's also Instagram Reels now. If you guys haven't tested that, it's really neat. You can get really creative with video content on there. So as you guys see here, the example that I put, Bryland's Feet Foundation, they posted everywhere and they made sure that everything was consistent. They had the same branding. Another thing I wanted to mention about social media is creating an event hashtag, which is always really fun. And this is what Bryland's Feet Foundation did. They created a event hashtag Light the Night. And I would suggest you guys to do the same, have some fun with it. And this just creates a cohesive conversation online. And makes everything, flow together and look really professional. And bringing up video again, if you guys are interested in increasing views, likes, clicks, which of course you are, I would definitely suggest adding a promo video about your event on all these platforms as well. And then of course, if you have, the extra money that you're not putting into an in-person event, I would suggest that you can get in front of a new audience with paid ads, people that haven't necessarily heard or aware of your foundation before. And just a little tip before I continue on is just like the email marketing strategy, you also want to have somewhere, some sort of spreadsheet or some sort of social media promotion calendar just to keep you on track. So here are some top virtual event platforms. I'm not going to go over these in detail, but I wanted to include this page, which is going to have links when it's sent to you guys. So you guys could just check it out on your own. But I basically divided everything up into the type of event that you're going to have. So if you want to have a live performance, I would suggest using Zoom, Facebook Live, YouTube Live, like I already mentioned. If you're going to do something like a silent auction, I added a couple suggestions here. If you're going to do the virtual run, race, walk, here are some top options for having that mileage tracker for your participants. And then lastly, I have the peer-to-peer and online fundraising, things like CostBox, Classy, all the top ones. So of course, you guys are going to get this slide and the whole presentation. You can check these out on your own time and just let me know if you have any questions. So before I wrap up, I wanted to give you guys a few tips for hosting success. So number one, any type of online virtual event, you always want to schedule a practice rehearsal. This is definitely going to help with those technical difficulty nerves. And you'd be surprised that when you actually schedule a practice rehearsal, you know, things come up and you're like, oh, I am so happy I wasn't doing this live. Now I'm prepared for the live event. So it's always a good idea to do that. If you're going to have a virtual concert or a speaker or somebody else besides your own organization participating, you also want to make sure that you include them in the practice rehearsal as well. You also want to make sure that you're prepared for being on camera. Now, this is probably the last thing that you're thinking about because you're thinking about the content in the actual virtual event. You know, promoting it, getting your attendees there, getting everyone signed up. But you do want to consider this because it's really important to make your, whatever people see you on camera, it's going to be a reflection of your organization. You want to come off, professional, high quality. So it's important that you consider the lighting, of course, which can always be prepared on the practice rehearsal. You want to check your sound, your Wi-Fi, also your background. You don't want to have a messy background. You can even set something up or create your own virtual background on Zoom to make it highly engaging. And then lastly, you want to consider what you're wearing, your attire. So I included this nice little color palette that I found from Wistia.com, which is another video company. And these are their recommendations for the top colors that look best on camera. So just a fun little tip for you guys. And another tip is you want to encourage audience engagement. So this includes asking people questions on the actual virtual event. And I know that Zoom has a really good poll feature where you can prepare all the questions you want to ask beforehand. And just asking people these questions are going to get them engaged, make them feel like they're actually part of the experience, which is always great. And lastly, you want to make sure that you follow up with attendees post-event. I know that, a lot goes into this beforehand, and once it's over, you're like, phew, I did it, I'm done. But unfortunately, your work is not done yet. You do need to follow up with everyone. I would highly suggest an email. You want to thank people, especially if they donated. And here at Lemon Light, we've done a lot of videos for nonprofits, what we call thank you videos. And it's essentially just the organization on camera, thanking them, thanking their donors for donating. This client here is First Family Dental. They raised $50,000, so they wanted to make sure that they thanked all their donors correctly. All right, and that's all I have. Thank you guys so much. I guess we're going to open it up now for some Q&A.
Yes, so a couple of questions so far.
Oh, great.
First up is, so what is a good budget for a quality video segment for our event?
For the actual virtual event platform, or?
As a part of their event. So I'm thinking that's like the 5-minute intro to their organization type of a sort of commercial.
Got it. Okay, so if you're looking to if you want to promote your event and you want to use video, feel free to reach out to me. I can connect you with someone on our team and we can give you guys, we work with a lot of brands of all different sizes and all different budgets. So it really just depends what you want to have. So right now we're doing a lot of videos in studio safely, where you can have like somebody from your organization, like a founder, talk directly to the camera. That's going to be a little, that's going to be lower on the budget, which is great. But if you guys wanted to do something yourself and create your own video, I would suggest, you can use an iPhone, and you can create something for social media, but I wouldn't suggest putting it anywhere on your website or things like that.
Okay, great. So another question was on the Facebook live streaming. So do you recommend special equipment to do like a Facebook live stream, or can they just use their iPhone?
So if you have a laptop or a computer, I would suggest that, just because it's going to be easier for you. A phone is kind of hard to, I feel like it might fall back. But if you don't have that, you can use your phone. Just make sure that you have good lighting, and natural lighting is always the best. I know that on Amazon, you guys have probably seen those ring lights. Those don't work. I mean, if you have it, use it, but they honestly don't work that well. So I would always suggest sitting near a window where there's natural light. But of course, if the event is at night, you don't have that natural light. So try to get as many lights in your home or wherever you are, close to you, and test it out beforehand too.
Great, that's good advice. So the next thing were there any specific games that you really liked that you've seen from in an event setting?
Yeah, so I saw the one that I brought up that I really liked was the scavenger hunt, and it wasn't from a the scavenger hunt wasn't from a nonprofit. It was from like another marketing event, and they had two MCs that happened to also be comedians. And so they started the event off with a virtual scavenger hunt where like everyone watching participated. And so they started off with like, okay, everyone on the count of 3, you're going to run. And if you have, what did they say? I think it was like a penny from like 1989 or a specific date, and everyone had to run and find it. And then they ended up sharing, like the winner or the person that said that they won, they end up inviting them on screen, and the person had to prove that they really had all those items. And it was really fun to watch.
Cool. So one last question, which is on the subject of the platforms for hosting their meeting. I know there's dozens of them out there. I, for one, have had days lately where I've been had meetings on 6 different platforms in one morning.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a particular platform you think is the most widely used or most easy for guests to be able to successfully manage?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I would say in general, for sure, Zoom. Everyone's using Zoom right now, and also it's really tailored for large audiences. So if you expect to have a bunch of people, like hundreds of people, then I would suggest Zoom. But if your charity has an audience that's maybe a younger demographic, I would suggest live streaming on social media. So Facebook Live, YouTube Live. But overall, I would say Zoom is the most popular and well-known. Like everyone on this call today has probably been on Zoom, and we're on it now.
Right. Yeah, I've actually heard the term Zoom fatigue frequently, which is why we try to keep these webinars fairly short.
Yeah.
So here's another question. Do you have tips for helping an organization identify a virtual event partner, like a consulting firm that can help design and execute event needs?
Yes, of course. Well, I know you guys at Achieve could definitely help. And if you guys need help with any of the promotional aspects, you can feel free to reach out to me for any tips. If you specifically want a promotional video, Lemon Light can definitely help you with that.
Okay. And there is a local group here called Productive Power that has specialized in, I'll put their URL in the chat. They specialize in kind of helping, they're like the event production company. They're not necessarily there with the cameras and everything, but they'll help you get the technology set up, make sure everyone's comfortable, do the rehearsal with you, actually run the actual meeting. So they're actually a South Florida business, and they've been doing quite a few of those. They did a really nice one for the United Way of Broward a few months ago. So that's someone you could reach out to for sort of logistical help in getting things organized.
Very
nice. So another question. Sorry, a suggestion for other ways to use video, i.e. interviewing the founder or something like that. So other types of video content that they might be able to use.
Yeah, so you can create an animation promotional video where it's basically just graphics. That's also a more affordable option. And if you're worried about social distancing and everything, it's a really great option right now. But it's basically we usually use like stock images with like just text. And it's kind of like, really big writing, join us. We're having a virtual event on this date and this date. And then it ends with like, sign up now. That's another great one. We've used that before when we didn't have time to film in person, and it's always effective. And then of course, if you want, we've also done like walk and talk style videos where somebody is outside and they're talking directly to the camera. It's more informal, but it doesn't have to necessarily be somebody from your organization. If you wanted to hire like an on-screen talent that's really great at hosting, you could hire them. Or maybe even if there's an MC that you already have planned to be on the virtual event, it'd be great if you included them in that.
Wonderful. Yeah, one of the nice things about this, like you mentioned earlier, is that people aren't spending money to rent a venue or spending money on food and beverage. So it does free up a lot as far as hiring like a good host or MC, whether that's a local television personality like a newscaster or something like that. So super. So I think does anyone else have any other questions? You feel free to put them in the chat.
And if you guys, if any other questions come to mind afterwards, you can feel free to email me. I put my email in here. And then if you're interested in video, feel free to reach out to us. Or if you want more resources related to video, our website's on there too at lemonlight.com.